Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. This time, we're going deep on cloud computing.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, and specifically how it's changing the world of supply chains. We're going off of this article from Procure for Marketing, and it's called Cloud Computing in Supply Chain Operations. Now, I think most people think of cloud computing as like, storing your data.
Right, yeah.
But this article goes so much deeper into how much more it is than that, especially when we're talking about managing those intricate networks of suppliers and manufacturers and distributors, all those things that make up those supply chains.
Yeah, and it really has like revolutionized the way businesses are able to handle some of the big challenges that we've seen in supply chains over the last, several years.
Absolutely.
Things like, getting real-time insights and being able to adapt to changing conditions and just the level of collaboration that cloud computing enables.
Yeah, that's what was so fascinating to me about this article. It really highlighted how companies can use cloud computing to deal with those like, oh no
All
moments.
right.
Like when you suddenly have like a surge in demand for a product and you've got to figure out how to ramp up production and get it to customers quickly.
Yeah, it's almost like having this like secret weapon that lets you scale up instantly
Yeah.
without, having to like scramble and find all these extra resources.
Yeah, because in the past you would had to like call up all your suppliers and be like, "Hey, I need more of this." And.
Exactly. Yeah, it'd be a scramble and you'd be waiting weeks or even months to get things moving.
And now it's all in real time.
Exactly. And think about like, a traditional supply chain where
Yeah.
you've got, the suppliers, the manufacturers, the distributors, and the retailers all kind of operating in their own little silos. Cloud computing kind of bursts those silos
Hmm.
and creates this central hub where everyone has access to that real-time information.
That's where the magic happens.
That is where the magic happens.
So like remember back in the early 2000s when like, the cloud was mainly about like backing up your computer files?
Uh-huh.
It was all about like storage, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it was essentially seen as like a digital filing cabinet.
Right.
Businesses were just focused on keeping their data safe and accessible.
Right. And now it's a whole other ball game.
It is, yeah.
This article really dives into how cloud computing has evolved into this whole like ecosystem of advanced analytics, machine learning,
Right.
comprehensive enterprise resource planning systems, you name it.
Yeah, it's gone from being like a supporting player to like taking center stage.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and this evolution has been particularly impactful in supply chain management, where, real-time data in that seamless collaboration are just absolutely essential.
Absolutely. And so let's get into some of the specific benefits that this article highlights.
Okay?
First up is scalability and flexibility. It's almost like having a business that can like stretch and grow like a rubber band,
Right.
adapt to all these changes in demand without skipping a beat.
Yeah.
They use the example of managing those crazy seasonal peaks that retailers face.
Right. Yeah, think about it this way. Instead of having to invest in like a ton of extra capacity that might sit idle for most of the year,
Right.
you can just use the cloud to adjust your resources
Lights.
as needed.
Right.
So you can meet that peak demand without breaking the bank or having to deal with all those logistical nightmares.
Yeah, exactly right. And then another big win that this article mentions is cost efficiency. It's like switching from buying all that expensive equipment to just subscribing to a service.
Yeah.
That gives you exactly what you need when you need it.
Right.
The article points out how this makes cloud computing especially attractive to those smaller businesses.
Yeah, the game changer for them. Those companies that might not have the big budgets to build and maintain their own IT infrastructure,
Right.
they can get access to those same powerful tools and technologies that were previously only available to those huge corporations.
Exactly. They don't have to like, buy the server racks and,
Yeah.
hire an IT team to manage it and all that.
Right.
So it really levels the playing field. And then the third key benefit is this enhanced collaboration. And the article talks about how cloud computing is like a central nervous system
Mm-hmm.
for the entire supply chain. You've got your suppliers, logistics providers, your retailers.
Yeah.
Everybody's on the same page, sharing real-time data, making decisions together.
It's like that dream team scenario
Yes.
where everything just clicks.
And if we kind of connect that back to like the bigger picture,
Yeah.
we're witnessing the rise of this truly interconnected and intelligent supply chain.
Right.
Information flows seamlessly Bottlenecks are anticipated.
You're not reacting to things. You're
Yeah.
anticipating things. You're getting ahead of
And
things.
everyone is working in sync.
Yeah,
And that level of transparency and collaboration, it just has this massive impact on how efficient and responsive a business can be.
absolutely. And I think we're just scratching the surface of what's possible.
And speaking of what's possible,
Yeah.
this article doesn't just stop at listing the benefits. It actually gets into some really cool real-world applications.
Yeah.
And one that jumped out at me was the whole real-time data and analytics.
Uh-huh.
The cloud allows businesses to analyze information instantly,
Yeah.
so you can make faster, more informed decisions.
Right.
And they give this great example of dynamic demand forecasting,
Yeah.
which helps businesses anticipate future trends. It's like having a crystal ball.
Yeah. It's like, instead of looking in the rearview mirror,
Right.
you're actually looking ahead and saying, okay, what's coming down the pike?
What's coming next?
Yeah.
And then another great example from the article is inventory management.
Yeah.
Cloud-based systems can actually track inventory levels
Uh,
across multiple locations in real time.
yeah.
So businesses can avoid stockouts and they can avoid having too much inventory just sitting around.
It's all about finding that sweet spot, right?
Right.
Having enough inventory to meet demand, but not having too much that
Yeah.
you're tying up capital.
You're just bleeding money.
Exactly. And cloud computing is helping businesses get that right.
Exactly.
It's leading to significant cost savings and a more streamlined operation overall.
Yeah, and it's not just about like what's happening right now. It's
Right.
about like what's going to happen in the future.
Yeah. And-
So we can kind of predict, what's going to be needed and when.
Yeah, precisely.
And then there's transportation management,
Right.
another area where cloud computing is having a big impact.
Huge.
This article talks about how companies are using these cloud-based platforms to like optimize routes, manage fleets of vehicles,
Yeah.
even schedule deliveries
Uh,
with like pinpoint accuracy.
It's like creating this transportation network that is just as dynamic as the world that we live in. Imagine a delivery truck that can automatically adjust its route in real time based on traffic conditions, weather updates,
Oh, wow.
or even a customer's sudden change of plans.
So wait, are we getting close to that scene in Back to the Future where the pizza shows up like 2 seconds after it's ordered?
Now, maybe not that fast, but yeah, you get the idea. These AI-powered routing systems are using all that real-time data to make deliveries more efficient, more reliable, and even faster.
Oh, that's amazing.
And when you think about, the impact this has on, businesses' bottom line,
Right,
it's huge.
right.
You're saving time, you're saving fuel, you're reducing emissions. It's really a win-win for everybody.
Now, this article also dives into how cloud-based machine learning is being used for demand forecasting. It's like taking all of those spreadsheets and historical sales data and feeding it into like this, supercomputer that can spot patterns that we humans might miss.
Yeah, it's about moving beyond those gut feelings
Yeah.
and relying on data-driven insights to make those critical decisions. For companies that are dealing with products that have very unpredictable demand fluctuations,
Right.
like, trendy fashion items that suddenly become all the rage,
Yeah.
machine learning can be an absolute game changer.
So we're talking about avoiding those situations where a company has warehouses full of, products that nobody wants anymore.
Exactly. Machine learning helps businesses forecast demand with a level of accuracy that we've never seen before, preventing those costly overstocks and lost sales. It's all about getting the right product to the right place at the right time.
And this article also mentions this thing called the Internet of Things, or IoT. I have to admit, this is where it starts to get like really futuristic for me.
Yeah.
We're talking about a world where like pretty much every product has sensors that can track its location, its condition, even temperature in real time.
It's as if each product has its own digital heartbeat that we can monitor from anywhere in the world.
Oh, wow.
And all that data is flowing through the cloud, giving businesses this incredible level of visibility into their supply chains.
Okay, give me like a for instance. How is this being used in the real world?
So the article talks about this pharmaceutical company that's using IoT sensors to monitor the temperature of vaccines during transportation.
Oh,
So they're making sure that those vaccines stay within that, critical temperature range
right.
throughout the entire journey, from the manufacturing plant to the patient's arm.
So we're talking about protecting those life-saving medications.
Absolutely.
Making sure they're effective when they reach the people who need them.
It's about improving safety, quality control.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's about building trust with customers.
Now, while all of this sounds incredibly promising, This article does acknowledge that there are some challenges and risks associated with cloud computing, and data security seems to be like top of mind.
Yeah, it's a valid concern.
Yeah.
When you're entrusting your sensitive business data and your customer information to the cloud, you need to be confident that it's protected. This article emphasizes the importance of choosing cloud providers that have robust security measures in place. Things like encryption, regular security audits, compliance with those strict data protection regulations.
It's like you're building this fortress around your data
Exactly, yeah.
to keep those cyber threats at bay.
Businesses need to be proactive, and they need to make sure that they are partnering with cloud providers that prioritize security just as much as they do.
Another challenge this article mentions is the risk of vendor lock-in.
Yeah.
What happens if you become like totally dependent on a single cloud provider and then you want to switch down the road?
Right. That's a great point.
Right.
It's important for businesses to have a strategy for avoiding that vendor lock-in.
Okay.
The article suggests exploring this thing called a multi-cloud approach,
Okay.
where you're spreading your data and applications across multiple cloud providers.
Okay.
That way you have more flexibility and more bargaining power in the long run.
So it's like diversifying your investments.
Exactly. It's about having options and not putting all your eggs in one basket.
Not putting all your eggs in one basket. This article also points out like the complexity of integrating these cloud solutions
Right.
with those older legacy systems
Yeah.
that a lot of companies are still relying on.
Yeah.
It sounds like it can be a little bit of a headache.
It can be, but with careful planning and the right expertise, those integration challenges can definitely be overcome.
Okay.
The key is to choose cloud solutions that are compatible with your existing systems and to have a clear roadmap for migrating that data and those applications.
So it's not just about like flipping a switch and everything magically works.
It does take some strategy
Okay.
and a good dose of tech know-how to make that transition smoothly.
Okay, so while we've talked a lot about the benefits and the challenges of cloud computing, I'm curious about like the evolution of the technology itself.
Mm-hmm.
How did we get from those early days of just, simple data storage
Right.
to this powerful platform that's transforming so many industries?
That's a fascinating story.
Yeah.
The journey of cloud computing has been remarkable, from its humble beginnings as a way to back up computer files to its current role as this, driver of innovation and digital transformation. Cloud computing has come a long way.
It really has. And it makes you wonder, how did we even function before the cloud?
I know, right?
Yeah.
Like, remember those days of like clunky servers? Like those rooms full of like blinking lights and like mountains of physical data?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was a whole different world.
Yeah, and like tapes and floppy disks and
Oh, yeah.
oh, yeah.
It's amazing to think how far we've come.
But it seems like the early days of cloud computing were all about finding a better way to deal with all of that. Like
Yeah.
finding a more efficient way to like store and access all that information.
Exactly. It was all about getting rid of those physical limitations
Right.
and costs.
Yeah.
Businesses were spending a fortune on all of that hardware and the IT staff to manage it all.
Yeah, it's kind of like how we've gone from those like bulky photo albums to storing, thousands of pictures on our phones.
All right. It's all about accessibility and convenience.
Exactly.
So cloud computing came along and promised to like free businesses from all of that.
Right.
You could store your data in these massive data centers accessed through the internet. You didn't need all that expensive hardware.
And you didn't have to like dust it and keep it cool and, all that stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it was a big win for businesses in terms of streamlining things and saving money.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then as internet speeds got faster and cloud platforms became more sophisticated,
Yeah.
cloud computing started to evolve.
Okay.
It moved beyond just data storage
Yeah.
and started to offer this broader range of services. We're talking like software applications, computing power, even entire development environments.
Yeah, and that's when we started hearing about like software as a service or SaaS.
Right. Exactly.
It seemed like every company was suddenly moving their applications to the cloud.
And for good reason.
Right.
Instead of installing software in every single computer,
Mm-hmm.
you could just subscribe to these applications that were hosted in the cloud.
Right.
It totally revolutionized the way we work and the way we access information.
It's like the difference between buying a whole music library
Right.
versus subscribing to a streaming service. You have access to everything you need without the hassle of managing it all yourself.
And as those cloud platforms continue to mature,
Okay.
they started incorporating even more advanced technologies like artificial intelligence, machine learning, the Internet of Things.
And that's where things got really interesting.
Exactly. These advancements just opened up this whole new world of possibilities for businesses.
And that brings us full circle back to the impact that cloud computing is having on supply chain management today.
Right.
All those innovative solutions we talked about, like real-time data analytics, dynamic routing, predictive maintenance, all of that was made possible because of the cloud.
It's amazing to see how these advancements are allowing businesses to build these supply chains that are way more efficient, agile, and resilient.
Mm.
And as cloud technologies continue to rapidly evolve,
Right.
I think we can only imagine what the future holds.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into cloud computing and its impact on supply chains,
Yeah.
what's the key takeaway for our listeners?
Well, I think it's clear that cloud computing is here to stay. It's not a fad, it's not going away,
Right.
and I think its influence is only going to get stronger in the years to come. So businesses need to embrace these technologies. They need to understand how to use them to solve real problems, improve efficiency, and ultimately create a more connected and sustainable world.
Yeah, and it's not just about like keeping up with the Joneses or, just following the latest trends. It's about figuring out how these technologies can actually help your business succeed.
And while technology plays a crucial role, we can't forget about the human element.
Right.
As supply chains become more digital and automated, people need to adapt.
Right.
We need to develop new skills.
Yeah.
We need to learn how to work alongside these powerful tools.
And I think it's important to remember that this is an ongoing journey. We're still in the early stages of this digital transformation, and who knows what incredible innovations are just around the corner. It's an exciting time to be a part of all of this. And for those businesses who are ready to embrace the possibilities, the future is looking very, very bright.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of cloud computing and supply chains. We'll be back again soon with more insightful explorations, helping you navigate this ever-changing world of business and technology. See you next time.